Welcome back, everybody. It's January 11th. I'm Selena. You're here at the lab, and we are in the thick of it in the Empathy Lab. If you've read today's lab report, you know why we're talking about why we chose the tango. But I wanted to share a field note that actually didn't make it into the article and something that comes from my years as a conflict resolution specialist. So, for all of you that don't know, other than being your amazing bedside anthropologist, I also am a conflict resolution specialist. What does that mean? What does that mean? It means the empathy labs. It means that I live and breathe the understanding, the whys, the behavioral science, the icks, the not icks, and why we get into conflict and why we're conflicted, and hence why the think tank opened, the lab opened, and you, my readers and my listeners, get articles and short podcasts or casts or streams of thought on the different things we get ourselves into. Why should you care? Why am I doing this? Because I feel that if we all understood the way that we get into conflict and how conflict exists within ourselves, then we just apply a bit more conscious awareness. Maybe we can have a bit more joy in our lives, a bit more harmony, a bit more beauty. Is this utopian? Is this a little bit like hippy dippy crazy? Possibly. However, I would just like folks to experience feeling like a really good person. And when I say good, I don't mean like, oh, this is good because you're Glenda the Good Witch, and oh, this is bad because you're not Glenda the Good Witch. That's not what I mean. When I say good, feeling good inside because you actually have a handle on what is going on inside of you, what is going on around you, and therefore there is the art of self-realization. So, back to the article at hand. So, when you are in conflict resolution, or when conflict is kind of your jam, you develop a specific type of spidey sense, a specific type of ear, and you learn after not so long, actually, you learn to hear the shape of a person's life through the phone before you even meet them, open their file. Even through an email, you can kind of start to see the shape of an individual's life. And what does that mean? Well, you're probably like, Selena, what the hell are you talking about? The shape of my life? What are you talking about? Just give me a minute. I'll let you know. I can hear when someone's in a tangle. What does that mean? What it means is that the voice is different. It's high pitched, it's frenetic, it's crowded. They aren't telling me about their claim, they're telling me about the noise. They'll say things like, I called the doctor, but the portal was down. Or, and then my manager did this, and then the letter said that. I don't even know where the lead thread is anymore. And, I'm just really too busy because, I don't even understand how I got into this problem. So you see how fast my intonation went? Could you feel through the sound waves, through your headphones, through the speakers, that my voice changed? It was high pitched. You almost felt like you were running after me to get information, but you couldn't really figure out what information was really important. Was I following the 3 rules of conversation? What are the 3 rules of conversation? We'll save that for another cast. However, I'll just lay it out here. There's the social, the emotional, and the practical to every conversation. And once you understand those 3 layers of the sandwich, then you can kind of figure out the type of container the sandwich is presented in, whether it's glass Tupperware, a paper bag, plastic, same thing. Shapes, same thing. So I can hear when someone's in a tangle. And that sound of a tangle is the chaotic tantra, right? It's energy that has become completely chaotic. It is the misfiring of the machine. It's a system where energy is leaking in every direction because the structure, the yantra, of the process has collapsed. The mantras being used are destructive. They don't allow for breath. They don't allow for a moment of response. It's more of a reaction. So the structure has collapsed completely. But here's the secret. When I am in a mediation, and even now when I'm observing the Sunday rush at the IGA in my neighborhood, or even the craziness of people at Distante, I see people willingly leaning into the chaos. And when I say willingly, they're not like, I'm going to be in a fucking tangle all day today. Pardon the French, however, we're all adults here, I hope. However, it is a reaction. It is a compulse that has them leaning into that chaos. And we use the tangle as a shield. As long as we're fighting the system or lost in the mess, we don't have to face the klesha. And I've been talking about kleshas, y'all. So if you're just like, what is she talking about now? Go back a few articles and I break down all the kleshas and how they kind of get in to our everyday lives, our everyday worlds. And the klesha that comes up when we are fighting the system or lost in the mess is asamita. It's the ego. It's the I. We don't have to admit that we're the ones holding the string. In the lab, I call this the implementation tax when I'm talking to corporate folks, because you can't always come in there with the very deep and ancient language. So I flipped it and I call it the implementation tax or the energy tax, right? It's the energy that you waste on the mess so you don't have to do the work of redesign. And when I say redesign, I'm not talking about like redesigning your room, or actually I am kind of talking about redesign. I'm talking about internal redesign, conscious redesign, redesigning the weave or the tapestry that makes up your consciousness to find where this thread is. Where is this imprint that's causing the tangle? Every single time I become conflicted, this type of conflict energy comes up. Everything's tangly, it's erratic, it's all over the place. Where is the groove? This week, if you can, if you've got time, if this cast even tickled you, I want you to listen to your own voice. When you're explaining a problem to your partner, your children, your boss, and in particular, folks, in particular, when you're speaking to yourself, are you providing a map or are you just adding to the noise? Are you pulling the thread to get free or are you pulling it to make the knot tighter because you don't want to look at or you're afraid of what happens when the work is finally done? Who will you be now that you recognize this? What will you do? How will you step into this version of yourself that is now responding and not reacting? Don't just resolve the mess. Let's redesign the shape together. Anyway, folks, I'm Selena. You've been listening to the Empathy. Well, you've been listening to the Empathy Lab, and you've been listening to my podcast within the Empathy Lab, so I hope you've enjoyed it, right? Stay anchored, and I'll speak to you next time where we look at the somatics of another shape. But for this week, remember your homework, and we'll talk soon.